Let's start by saying Assalamu alaikum to everyone here. Yesterday we looked at the background to the Battle of Karbala and we discussed it in more detail. For example, the things that went on between Hazrat Muawiyah, Yazid, and Imam Hussain, and we talked about the Karbala as well, but we're going to do that later on. And today we're moving on to day 6, which is the journey begins Makkah to Madina.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. My dear respectful brothers, we are entering into the final 5 days of our program. So we are entering to the peak of what we are discussing in regards to the issues that we discussed. So today is the journey from Makkah to Madina. Okay, the journey that Imam Hussain makes and the reasons behind it. And tomorrow will be the letter or the invitation from the people of Kufa. Why did the people invite him? What were the letters that were sent to him? And then on today, so tomorrow is Tuesday. By tomorrow evening, we end up in Karbala. We will end up on the eve of the 9th of Muharram, on the eve of the 10th of Muharram, and then on Wednesday we will begin the battle itself. What happened in the battle itself? What was the circumstances around it? And then I think Wednesday we'll spend the whole day just on the battle. It'll take a long time to go through it in detail as possible. And then on Thursday will be the aftermath of the battle. So we are looking at 2 areas of the aftermath are 3 areas. One is Imam Hussein's honorable head being taken to Ibn Ziyad in Kufa, number 1. Secondly, the delegation that went to Damascus to Yazid, Imam Hussain and his family. And then the issue of Madina al-Munawwara, the ransacking of Madina Sharif, again in a bit detail about why Yazid did that. And then on the final day, we'll just go over a general review on it. What I want to do before I get through the points, I just want to mention a few things which I did not mention when we spoke about Yazid and Imam Hussain, which deserves what we call credit or deserves time for me to speak on. Some people say that the position of some scholars and ulama is that when you have a tyrant leader, if you have an oppressor, that you cannot rise up against an oppressor. You cannot rise up against a dictator. And they quote many hadith to substantiate this, to try to prove their view or their point that you cannot rise against the leader. And there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim which is used a lot. And the hadith is, the Prophet ﷺ said the following: beware, whoever has a wali means governor, whoever has a governor over him and see him in a matter from disobedience of Allah must dislike it, but must not withdraw his hand from obedience. So what does this mean? The hadith says that whoever has a guardian over him, a wali, a governor, you are not allowed to break your bay'ah with him. Even though he's a zalim, even though he's an oppressor, you should keep your allegiance to such a person. That is what the hadith says. It's found in Sahih Muslim. And many people use this, and there's many other hadith where the Prophet says that if you are under the circumstance where there's a zalim, what is the best thing to do? Keep silent. And these evidences are used to say that Imam Hussain was wrong to leave and to rise up against Yazid, to substantiate. The issue we have is, if you directly go to the hadith without understanding the hadith, you will find conflict in it. What do I mean? If you read his hadith, just reading it, it tells you, or it paints a picture that you are not allowed to rise up against a leader. However, there are many other hadith in which the Prophet said the following. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best jihad is the one who speaks the word of truth before an oppressive leader. The best jihad is to speak the truth, the word of truth in front of a tyrant. That is the best jihad. In another hadith, the Prophet said, verily when the people see the tyrant, the zalim, the tyrant, and do not grab his hand, meaning do not stop him, it is near that Allah will make a general upon them in punishment. What does it mean? It means that if you see a tyrant and you don't stop the haram, all of you are responsible for al-guna. You will be held accountable for that sin. And there is another hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, he said, O Sa'ad bin Ujwa, or Ujza, sorry. He said, I seek refuge in Allah from the rule of the fools. The Sahabi said, Ya Rasulullah, what do you mean by the rule of the fools? And he said the following. He says, soon will come rulers who will, when they speak, lie. When they act, they will oppress. So whoever will come and validate their lies and aid them in their oppression will not be from me. And I will not be from him. And tomorrow he will not come to Al-Kawthar. In other words, what the Prophet is saying in this hadith is that if you see a zalim, if you see an oppressor, and you don't stop his oppression, and you participate in his oppression, the Prophet said that you will not drink from Al-Kawthar, which is on Yawm Al-Qiyamah. And then the Prophet continued and said, whoever will not go to them, and will not validate their lies, and will not aid them in their oppression, will be from me, and I am from him, and tomorrow he will come to Al-Kawthar. In another hadith in Al-Mustadrak by Imam Al-Hakim, the Prophet said, the people of tyranny and their helpers are in hellfire. So what do we learn from these few hadith? We find that we learn that there's two conflicting views. If you read it, and then if you go directly to the hadith without understanding what the ulama write, if you yourself directly go to the hadith, what you learn, you find that both hadith are conflicting. On one hand, the Prophet is saying prohibit munkar, prohibit the sin, stop the ruler who's oppressive, don't give bayah. And on the other hand, the Prophet is saying keep silent. On the other hand, the Prophet is saying that when you see an oppressive leader, you should, if you cannot stop him, what you should do, you should have sabr and wait until you meet me, the Prophet said in Yawm Al-Qiyamah. So you find these two conflicting views. The ulama said regarding this, one is called ruksa and one is called azima. Ruksa basically means when the sharia gives you a permit, it gives you permission to do something which may necessarily be against the sharia. What do I mean? For example, if a person was to put a gun at your head or to torture you, like many of the Sahaba that were tortured during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, once they were tortured, they then said words which were kufr, words which were not befitting, words which were against Allah and His Prophet, and they were killed. One narration says they were not killed. That news came back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, under these circumstances, I said this and that, whatever it may have been. What is the ruling? The Prophet said, there is no haram on you. To protect your life, to protect your honor, to protect your dignity, you are allowed in that circumstance to abandon Islam. And you are allowed to say those kalimat, those words which may take you out of the fold of Islam. It is permissible. The ulama say the ruling of that is what? Number one, you will not be sinful, but two, you will not receive a reward for it. So there's no blame and there's no gain from it. That is what we call ruksa. Azima basically means, the context of azima is that you accept the punishment, you forbear, that's the word, you forbear the punishment that is taking upon, that is being placed upon you. So if he's torturing you, you accept the torture. If he's oppressing you, you accept it. And if by the result of that you are killed, then the ulama say you are a shaheed, you are a martyr, and your reward is rewardable for standing up. So these are two circumstances that you are allowed to behave in certain ways. So when the Prophet ﷺ said that if you have a leader over you and you give allegiance to him and he becomes a tyrant, do not withdraw your hand from him. The meaning of this is what? The ulama have added a certain number of points. They say, if you are not able to remove the fisq or the fujur, if you're not able to remove the haram that that person is doing, then you avoid and you stay silent. Because the Prophet said, when you see fitna, the best thing to do is to stay, has furniture in your house. So the meaning of this doesn't really say and doesn't really proclaim that you are not allowed to rise up against the leader. If the leader is an oppressor, then you should fulfill the rights that are given to you to speak out against those people who are oppressing the people or the Muslims. And we have seen this in many circumstances, like in Egypt now, in Syria, people are uprising. Syria is a quite technical or very delicate issue, because many ulama say it was better for them to stay silent. The life before is better than the life now. Similarly to Iraq, the life under Saddam, even though Saddam was a tyrant, it was much more better than what the Muslims are facing in Iraq today. At least in Iraq it was peace and tranquility. Okay? That's another issue. So what we learn from this is not necessarily do you have to stay silent. If you have the ability and you believe that by you speaking out against the tyrant and the dhulm of the leader, that you can achieve something, then it's totally permissible to do that. Based upon that, that is the reason why Imam Hussain rose up against Yazid. Imam Hussain did not rise up against Yazid for leadership. It wasn't a political war. Why? Imam Hussain never requested the leadership. Imam Hussain never went to the people and said, many people said to Imam Hussain, why don't you seek the bay'ah from the people? Why don't you seek the allegiance from the people? He said, no. Imam Hussain. Another point to show, if Imam Hussain was a political individual or a political person, as many people unfortunately said, why would he have taken Ali Asghar with him? Why would he have taken his small son? Why would he have taken Zainab with him, his sister? Why did he take Rubab, his honorable wife, radiyallaho anha? Why was it that he took 82 people to Karbala? The vast majority of them were women and children. What was the need of Imam Hussain to travel thousands upon thousands of miles across the desert? If it was a political war, if it was a war that he wanted to do, to fight, then what should he have done? Imam Hussain should have gone to Yemen, because Yemen supported him. Yemen was supporters of his father. So he should have gone to Yemen, galvanized an army, went back to Iraq and fought Yazid. But Imam Hussein's intention wasn't that. It's totally contrary. That is why Charles Dickens, the famous novelist, he says that one of the greatest things, again I'm paraphrasing what he says, he says one of the greatest things we find in Hussain, he thought how to live a life and how to fight corruption. And he said he was a man of justness and peace, and a proof of that is the people that he took with him to Karbala. He never took anyone with him he never had the intention of going there to fight. And this in itself is a unique point. Now, Yazid was born 26, maybe 27 after Hijri. That's the narrations we have. Muawiyah radiyallaho anhu passes away on the 15th of Rajab in the 60th year after the Prophet migrated from Makkah to Madina al-Munawwara. And Imam Hussain was martyred. I'm just giving you these dates in advance so you can make note if you want to. Imam Hussain was martyred on Friday, the 10th of Muharram, 61 after Hijri, at the time of Salatul Jum'ah. That was the time. The attack on Madina by Yazid and his army was in Dhul Hijjah 63 after Hijri, and Yazid died on the 14th of Rabi'ul Awwal 64 after Hijri. His illegal rule was approximately 3 years and 9 months. This was the period of his leadership. And let me go straight into this. Muawiyah radiyallaho anhu passes away in the period that I just mentioned to you. And one of the things that he did before he passed away was he appointed his son as his successor. Okay? And he wrote to different governors of the Muslim world. 3 or 4 of the most important parts of the Muslim world. One was Iraq. The two most important cities were Kufa and Basra. These were extremely important to him. And the other one was Madina al-Munawwara, Makkah al-Mukarrama, and Syria at large. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu writes letters to many of the governors, saying to them that I have appointed Yazid as my successor. He says, if anything happens to me, you are to give your allegiance to Yazid. You are to give your allegiance to him. When he passes away, Yazid sits with his advisors. Many of them were Christians. And Yazid says, what shall I do? They say immediately you should write to the leaders in the various lands, telling them that Muawiyah has passed away, and demand the oath of allegiance from the people. Yazid writes a letter to a guy called Walid bin Utbah. Who is Walid bin Utbah? And Walid bin Utbah is the governor of Madina al-Munawwara. He is the governor of Madina Sharif. And Walid bin Utbah is the son of Abu al-As. He is the cousin of Yazid. His father was the cousin of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. Walid bin Utbah. Yani Walid is the son of Utbah. Who is Utbah? Let me correct myself there. Walid is the son of Utbah. Utbah is the brother of Muawiyah. He's Muawiyah's elder brother. So they were cousin brothers, him and Yazid. He writes a letter to Walid bin Utbah, and he tells Walid bin Utbah that he writes, this is the letter. He says, from Amir al-Mu'mineen Yazid, a'udhu billah, to Walid bin Utbah, the Wali of Madina al-Munawwara. He then writes, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I tell you that Muawiyah, my father, has passed away. He lived for a certain number of years, and his time was anointed. May Allah have mercy on him. And he mentions a few more things in regards to his father. He then says in the letter, I demand you to seek the allegiance from 3 people. Demand 3 people to give the allegiance to me immediately. And you must force them to give the allegiance. If they do not willingly give the allegiance, kill them. This is the order from Yazid. And the names are as following. The first one is Imam Hussain. The second one is Abdullah bin Zubair. And the third one is Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu anhu. These 3 individuals are the people that pose the biggest threat to the leadership of Yazid. If these 3 people accept Yazid's leadership, Yazid will then be accepted by the Muslims. When Walid bin Utbah sees this, Walid bin Utbah then calls upon Marwan bin Hakam. At that time Marwan was not the governor of Medina. Marwan was just a person that lived in Madina al-Munawwara. One of the incidents says that Marwan would not attend the majlis, the gathering of Walid, one of the habits of the Arabs, which is a habit which the Arabs continue even this practice till this day. If you go to Saudi Arabia, if you go to the Emirates, if you go to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, you will find the leaders of those countries hold what we call majlis. And in the majlis you will enter, I've been many times, this is where you enter into the majlis, you see the sheikh, you shake his hands, and if you have any request, you give it to him. Nowadays they give it on paper. Maybe I need a land, I have a problem with this, I have this problem. And the governor or the leader will look at it, and later on he would either acknowledge it or deny it. This type of majlis, Walid bin Utbah stopped holding. He stopped holding this majlis in Medina, number one. Number two, when he arrived in Medina al-Munawwara, when he was appointed the governor, Marwan bin Hakam only came to see him a few times. When Marwan came back, Walid bin Utbah, even though they're cousins, Walid bin Utbah humiliated him in front of everyone. He pulled him off. Why don't you come to my majlis frequently? And obviously Marwan is a very arrogant man. He has his own pride. He has his own credentials, if you want to call it, unfortunately. Because of that incident, Marwan bin Hakam then refuses to attend future majlises of Walid bin Utbah. So Walid bin Utbah writes a letter, one narration says. The second narration says, he sends his servant and says, go to Marwan and call Marwan to me. Tell Marwan I call him, and come eagerly, come quickly. Marwan bin Hakam, when he receives the news that Walid wants to see him, Marwan is an intelligent man. One thing about Yazid isn't an intelligent man, because Yazid spent all day drinking alcohol, whereas Marwan was a shrewd man. He was an extremely, you cannot deny, he was a very tactical person, intelligent. For him to do what he did to Sayyidina Uthman is like what you call it, it's what you call it nowadays dirty politics, clear-cut dirty politics. Anyway, Marwan comes to the gathering, and Marwan greets him, and he shows Marwan the letter. He says, this is the letter from Yazid, read it. And Marwan reads the letter. When Marwan realizes that Muawiyah has passed away, Marwan then says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And he sits. Walid bin Utbah turns around to Marwan and says to him, what should we do? What is your advice in regards to what Yazid is demanding of me? Marwan says, I tell you one thing. Get their bay'ah now. Force each one of them to give allegiance now. If they give it, good. If they do not give it, kill them. That is the advice that Marwan gave. Marwan then turns around and says what? Marwan turns around and says that don't worry about Abdullah bin Umar. Abdullah bin Umar is not a threat. He's not a major threat. Once we put pressure on him, he will accept our leadership. He says the two that you have to worry about is Imam Hussain and Abdullah bin Zubair. Imam Hussain, you all are aware who he is. For those who are not aware of who Abdullah bin Zubair is, Abdullah bin Zubair is the son of Zubair. Zubair is the cousin of the Prophet, and he is the grandson, the maternal grandson of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallaho anhu. Abdullah bin Zubair is the nephew of Aisha. That is why Aisha's nickname, her kunya, was what? Abdullah, the mother of Abdullah, even though she wasn't his mother, she was his auntie. So these are the two people we are worried about. That is what he says. So what Walid bin Utbah then does, he sends a person called Abdullah bin Umar bin Uthman bin Affan. Abdullah bin Umar is the grandson of Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. He calls him and says to him, go to the masjid or go to the houses and go find Hussein and find Abdullah bin Zubair. Tell them I called them and make them come to my gathering tonight. Remember, before that, there was no gathering in Medina. Abdullah bin Umar, he searches in Medina Sharif and he doesn't find Imam Hussain and Abdullah bin Zubair. Eventually he finds them in the masjid, in the Prophet's masjid. When he enters into the masjid, he gives salam. Imam Hussain turns and greets the salam, and Abdullah bin Umar bin Uthman says, the governor is calling you to his palace tonight. Walid bin Utbah is calling you tonight to his palace. And Abdullah bin Zubair turns and says, you go, we will come. Abdullah bin Zubair is taken back, stricken. What seems to be the issue with the governor? He turns to Imam Hussain, radiyallaho anhu. You know, Imam Hussain has what you call a sixth sense. Alhamdulillah. Imam Hussain turns, or Abdullah bin Zubair turns to Imam Hussain and says, oh Imam Hussain, why do you think Walid bin Utbah is calling us? This is exactly what Imam Hussain said. He said, because Muawiyah has died. Muawiyah has died and he's seeking the allegiance from us. Walid bin Utbah, Abdullah bin Zubair then says to Imam Hussain, what will you do? He says, I will go visit him. But I will take my brothers and I will take my students with me, my people with me, and we will enter into his gathering. So they leave. That night, Imam Hussain enters into the gathering of Walid bin Utbah. Look at the scenery now. He enters into the room, he looks forward and he sees Walid bin Utbah. On Walid bin Utbah's right is Marwan bin Hakim. Look at the wisdom of Imam Hussain radiallahu anhu. Imam Hussain enters and says, Assalamu alaikum. And they say, Wa alaikum assalam. Imam Hussain says, may Allah reunite your hearts. You should not break your familyship. Imam Hussain turns to Walid, because Walid bin Utbah and Marwan had fallen out because of what Walid did to Marwan. So the first thing is a psychological thing Imam Hussain is doing. And he does it out of sincerity. Imam Hussain immediately says, may Allah reconcile you. You should not break family ties. And may Allah reward you. And they don't say anything, they're quiet. Imam Hussain sits. Walid bin Utbah gives a letter to Imam Hussain and says, this is the letter from Yazid. Imam Hussain reads it. When he comes across the passage that Muawiyah has died, the narration says, Imam Hussain says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. May Allah forgive him and may Allah have mercy on him. Imam Hussain turns and Walid says to him, when you give the bay'ah, when you give the allegiance, when you give your allegiance to whom? Yazid. Imam Hussain now realizes, and one of the things of Imam Hussain, he is extremely intelligent. Imam Hussain is a tactical person too. Imam Hussain realizes, and one of the things that he does, which I forgot to mention, is before he entered into the gathering of Walid, he took his family members with him. He said to his family members, you wait here. If Walid raises his voice, or you hear something which is not normal, rush into the house as protection, as a contingency plan to protect the Imam. Imam Hussain, he analyzes the situation and he analyzes what's happening within the reality. He sees a massive vacuum now. The Muslim world is going through one of the greatest tribulations, should we say, since the death of Uthman radiallahu anhu. Why? Because Muawiyah has passed away. One of the qualities of Muawiyah as a leader is that he's an extremely talented man and he's a very good leader. As a leader, as a political leader, he was intelligent, he was extremely talented, he was extremely gifted. So Muawiyah was like that. The issue now is Yazid becoming the leader. He doesn't have any quality in him, right or wrong, to be a leader. To be a leader, one of the things that you have to have when you are a leader, if you go to any former head of state, any prime minister, any leader, we say to them, what is it, what are the qualities that you have to have? They all tell you patience. You have to have sabr. Yazid doesn't have sabr. You have to have forbearance. Yazid doesn't have that. You have to have goodness. He doesn't have that. You have to have the ability to make the right decision without doing it hastily. The right leader and the good Muslim leader is the one who doesn't rush into making a decision. This is one of the advices that Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, Umar was amazed. was amazing when it came. Umar was a person, radiyallaho anhu, he would never rush into making a decision. Whether that was appointing a judge, whether that was appointing a governor, any time that when people said to Umar, I want you to appoint a governor, if Umar never knew the governor by first experience, Umar would test the governor over a period of few months. Umar would test him, and if he fulfilled that test, only then would he apply him, or would he. So one of the qualities of a leader is a leader never rushes into making a decision. A leader is very patient. A leader is the one who doesn't rush. And remember, this was one of the advices that Ali radiyallaho anhu gave to Imam Hussain Karimain. He gave to the two brothers on his deathbed. What did Imam Ali say? Imam Ali said to them, don't rush in making decisions. Verify the facts. Don't believe anyone. If someone tells you something, if someone assumes something, don't believe them. Not until you yourself have verified that information. So this is one of the things that Imam Hussain does. He is a person who's able to look at a situation and analyze the behavior of the people. Subhanallah. That is how deep he was as a person. Imam Hussain is a person that he can look at you, the way you behave, the way you speak. Imam Hussain is able to judge what type of person you are. This type of knowledge, which we call the human behavior, has only really been developed in the last 20, 30, 40 years. Yet 1400 years ago, alhamdulillah, Imam Hussain had that ability to be able to look at someone's behavior and analyze it. Imam Hussain looks at the situation. On one side you have Walid bin Utbah, the governor. One of the qualities of Walid bin Utbah is Walid wasn't a narrow-minded man. Walid was what we call an eloquent man. He had eloquence in him. And Walid was not a person who was ziddi, you call it in Urdu. Stubborn, that's the word, thank you brother. He wasn't a stubborn man. Walid bin Utbah was a man who would accommodate other people. So Imam Hussain knows what type of person Walid is. Marwan on the other hand is a person who has no patience. It's proven, Marwan doesn't have sabr. Marwan's a man who it's either his way or the highway. He's a stubborn man. So when he sees these two people, and then he sees the vacuum that Muawiyah has died, and then he sees Yazid writing a letter demanding the bay'ah from him and his family, and from Abdullah bin Zubair and Abdullah bin Umar. When he sees all of these realities around him, Imam Hussain, he then realizes he has to say something to please them, but at the same time for him not to be alive, and at the same time allow him to escape from that gathering. So one narration says that Imam Hussain says, gather the people, for I know you do not want me to give bay'ah in private. I know you do not want me to give allegiance to Yazid in private. Call the people and then call me, and then we will decide. Then we will. Look at the wording of Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain isn't saying, I'm going to give bay'ah and then go back on his word. Because Imam Hussain is the man who never goes back on his word. Walid bin Utbah says, fine. Walid bin Utbah then says, fine, you can go. Go, Bismillah, in the name of Allah. Tomorrow we will call you. When Imam Hussain stands, Marwan bin Hakam then turns to Walid bin Utbah. He says, Wallahi, if you let him leave now, you will never get his bay'ah. That is what Marwan said. Marwan said, make him give bay'ah to Yazid now. If he doesn't kill him, when he says kill him, Imam Hussain turns around and he insults Marwan. He says, oh son of the blue-eyed woman. Why did he call him blue-eyed woman? Because Marwan's grandmother was from Armenia. She was a European. She was a Caucasian woman. And at that time, one of the ways of insulting people, if they were from Europe or Caucasian, you would say, son of the blue-eyed woman. It was an insult. in the Arabs at the time, the way they would say it. So Imam Hussain turns and says, O son of the blue-eyed woman, may Allah's curse be upon you. You will kill me? You will kill me? In other words, Imam Hussain saying, come fight me. Let's see whether you have the audacity. And Walid bin Utbah says, no, no, no. You may go. Go, Imam Hussain. We will call you tomorrow. When Imam Hussain leaves this gathering, Marwan turns around to Walid bin Utbah and says, I swear by Allah, you have left and you have lost the opportunity to maintain Imam al-Hussain. He says, I tell you now, after this day, there will be much blood. Marwan says this. Walid bin Utbah says, I swear by Allah. This is how soft Walid was. He wasn't stubborn. He says, I swear by Allah, I will not allow myself to kill the son of the Prophet. He had some sharab, he had some haya, he had some type of shame. He says, yes, Imam Hussain is not going to give the bay'ah, but I won't kill him. I will not. He said, if you gather, this is exactly what he said. He says, if you gather the treasures of the entire world, and you give me all the treasures in the world, he said, I swear by Allah, I will not take those treasures to kill Imam al-Hussain. He says, I prefer to be a sinful man than the one who's going to murder the grandson of the Prophet. And then he says to Marwan, he says, how am I going to stand in front of the Prophet on the day of judgment and say to him, I murdered your grandson for Yazid? You see, Walid is an intelligent man. Marwan turns around and says, I disagree with you. If this is your view, and if this is the opinion that you have, so let it be. So Imam al-Hussain leaves, and he goes back to his house. Over the next 2 days, Walid bin Utbah then sends his messengers to call Abdullah bin Zubair. Abdullah bin Zubair runs into his house, and he hides himself in his house. And each time that the messenger comes, each time he comes, the message becomes more detrimental. First is come to the governor. The governor is demanding that you come. Then if you don't come, the governor will arrest you. If you don't come, the governor will punish you. Eventually they said, what? The governor will kill you. So Abdullah bin Zubair was overwhelmed. So he sent his brother called Ja'far bin Zubair to Walid. He enters into Walid and says, O Walid, fear Allah, for why are you scaring my brother? For why are you putting this pressure on my brother? My brother has said he will come and see you tomorrow morning. Take your messengers away, take your people away, and let him come tomorrow. Okay, that is what he said. Walid bin Utbah then turns around and says, fine, we will see you tomorrow. What Abdullah bin Zubair then does at night, secretly him and Ja'far, his brother, leave Medina to go to Makkah. He left Medina, why? Because Abdullah bin Zubair had a good following of people in Makkah. But he leaves under the disguise of nighttime. That is the narration says. And he avoids taking the main road to Medina from Makkah, and he goes on a road towards Al-Fur. Al-Fur is a city or a small village. Shall I say not a city, but it's a village. He goes around that area. So he takes not the normal route, an unconventional route to go to where? Makkah Sharif. When he leaves, Imam Hussain is still in Medina. Walid then sends a letter saying to Imam Hussain, come back and give your allegiance. Imam Hussain then says, call the people tomorrow, gather the people tomorrow in the masjid, tell the people what is the circumstance that Muawiyah has died, and seek the allegiance from the people. Then we will decide. Then we will decide. And Walid said, fine. At that time, Walid had no suspicions of Sayyidina Imam Hussain. He knew that Abdullah bin Zubair read. And then Imam Hussain gathered his family, he gathered his brothers, and all of them left Makkah, Medina Sharif, to travel to Makkah al-Mukarramah. He leaves behind his brother called Muhammad bin Hanfiya. He is the brother of Imam Hussain through his father. His mother was from the Hanafite tribe, which was one of the tribes which even Muslim al-Kadhab belonged to. That was one of the tribes. So Muhammad bin Hanfiya, he goes to Imam Hussain. This is at night time before Imam Hussain is leaving. He says, "Oh my brother, you know the situation more better than me, but I beseech you that if you have to go to Mecca, don't go towards Iraq. Do not go towards Iraq. Do not go." He says, "Send your representatives. Ask the people if they give allegiance to you, accept it. If the people do not give allegiance to you, don't seek the leadership. For you know better that there will be no blame on you on Yawm al-Qiyamah." He's giving advice to his brother. Imam Hussain turns to him and says, "This is sound advice. Oh my brother, where do you advise me to go? To which city should I go?" He says, "Go to Mecca, and if not in Mecca you are not safe, go to Yemen." So he gives advice to Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain leaves and he enters, or he goes towards Makkah al-Mukarramah. This was on Sunday night, the 28th of Rajab, 60 after Hijri. So Sunday night, looking at towards the early time of the Hajj time of the Monday early morning, on the 28th of Rajab. On the way to Makkah al-Mukarramah, and Imam Hussain comes across Abdullah bin Abbas and Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallaho anhuma. He meets both of them. Both of them meet. They are coming back to Madina from Makkah, and he is going from Makkah to Madina. When both of them meet each other on the way towards Makkah al-Mukarramah, Imam Hussain turns to them and says, "What is the situation in Mecca like?" And they gave an update. Then they turn around and they said to Imam Hussain, "What is the situation in Medina like?" And Imam Hussain says, "Muawiyah has died, Walid bin Utbah is seeking the allegiance from everyone, and we left overnight and we are going towards Mecca." Abdullah bin Abbas turns to his cousin, because Abdullah bin Abbas was related to Imam Hussain. He says, "Oh Imam Hussain, I tell you, do not take an army. Do not go towards Syria. Do not trust the Kufan people. They are people who are known for their treachery. Look at what they did to your father. Look at what they did to your brother Al-Hassan. They are not people to be trusted." That is what he says to Imam Hussain. Do not go to Kufa. He's giving advice. Abdullah bin Umar then turns around and tells Imam Hussain, "Fear Allah." This is advice. Fear Allah and do not cause the disunity of the Ummah. And that is when Imam Hussain replies to him and says that we are the people who give unity to the Ummah. We are not the ones who make disunity. And we are not the people who will give our hands we will not give our bay'ah to the people who are zalimun, the people who are oppressors and are tyrant people. They leave each other and they move. When Yazid learns of this incident, because one of the things Marwan did when he left, Marwan wrote a letter complaining to Yazid about what Walid bin Utbah did. You know, he had no loyalty to no one. Marwan's loyalty was to himself, to his own power. Marwan writes the letter to Yazid. Yazid writes a letter to Walid bin Utbah, and he says to Walid bin Utbah, "I suspend you from your leadership." Why? The following cities you had Basra. Okay? Who was the governor of Basra? Was Ubaidullah bin Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad was the governor of Basra. Who was the governor of Kufa? Al-Nu'man bin Bashir was the governor of Kufa. And the governor of Mecca was Amr bin Sa'ad. Amr bin Sa'ad bin As. He was the governor of Mecca. And Walid bin Utbah was the governor of Madina al-Munawwara. So these are the main cities of the main governors. These are the four main governors of the Muslims. Yazid then writes a letter, and from that letter he sends it to Walid bin Utbah. He dismisses Walid as the governor, and he replaces Walid with a man called Amr bin Sa'ad, and this was in the month of Ramadan. When Amr bin Sa'ad enters into into Madina al-Munawwara, he's in Makkah, he leaves Makkah and he goes to Madina Sharif. So he puts in Makkah his deputy. He put his deputy, Al-Hum bin Khalid al-Makhzumi, has his deputy representative, and he leaves and he goes to which city? Madina al-Munawwara. When he enters in, he calls a person called Amr bin Zubair. Who is Amr bin Zubair? He is the brother of Abdullah bin Zubair. Both brothers hated each other. Amr bin Zubair had pure hatred for his brother Abdullah bin Zubair. So there were four brothers. How many? One was called Abdullah bin Zubair. One was called Ja'far bin Zubair. And one was called Ubaydullah bin Zubair. He was in Mecca. And the fourth one was called Amr bin Zubair. So these were four brothers. From four brothers, Abdullah bin Zubair and Ja'far bin Zubair were extremely close. And both of these were God-fearing people. They were God-fearing and they were people of taqwa. Amr bin Zubair was not a God-fearing man. And Ubaydullah bin Zubair was not a God-fearing man at all. He drank alcohol. That is his qualities. And he lived in Mecca. So he turns around and he says to his brother Amr bin Zubair, he says, I appoint you, I'll give you 2,000 men, soldiers. I want you to march to Mecca. And one of the reasons that he did this was why? Let me mention that, and I'll come to this and it'll make sense of one of the reasons behind that. Before this incident of him appointing Amr bin Zubair, in Makkah al-Mukarramah, Hazrat Abdullah bin Zubair would not read the namaz behind the held person at that time. The person who was in charge was called Al-Harith bin Khalid al-Makhzumi. He was the deputy to Amr bin Sa'ad. When Amr left Makkah to go Medina, he appointed him in his position. He used to lead the namaz in Haram Sharif. When Abdullah bin Zubair saw this, he prohibited him. He stopped him leading the people in namaz, and Abdullah bin Zubair himself became the imam and led everyone in namaz. When this incident happened, the news got back to Yazid that this is what Abdullah bin Zubair has done in Mecca. So Yazid then writes a letter to Amr bin Sa'ad in Madina and says, this is what this is what Abdullah bin Zubair has done in Mecca. Take 2,000 men, send the 2,000 men to Mecca, attack Mecca. If you have to fight in Mecca, fight, and bring me Abdullah bin Zubair. I will only accept his bay'ah with a silver chain across his neck, in chains, or bring me his head. You all understand that? This was the ultimatum that Yazid gave to him. Amr bin Sa'ad receives the letter, then he has to find someone to fulfill the act of taking an army. He can't himself go. So he finds who? Who do you think he found? Amr bin Zubair, an ideal candidate. Number one, he hated his brother Abdullah bin Zubair. Number two, he was pro-Yazid. Number three, he was pro-government. And he would do anything for money. So he says to him, take 2,000 men with you. Go to Makkah and fight your brother. If your brother surrenders, put him in chains and send him to Damascus to give the bay'ah to Yazid. If he refuses, kill him. If he refuses, kill him. This is what he said. Amr bin Zubair, what does he do then? He then, before he leaves Madina Sharif, he then gathers the people who supported his brother and he arrests them. He arrests all of them. He brings them and he begins to lash them with flogs. He begins to lash them with a whip. All of them. Some narration said that he whipped them 50 times. Some say 40 times. And some say 60 times. As a punishment for supporting his brother. After doing this, Amr bin Zubair leaves Medina and he goes towards Makkah. When he arrives in Makkah, when he arrives in Makkah al-Mukarramah, he sends a letter to his brother and says, I've come here. And one of the things that happens, which is another point I want to mention, is when Amr bin Sa'ad sent the 2,000 men with Amr bin Zubair, Marwan spoke up. Marwan said, don't attack the house of Allah. It is sacred. Because the last person, do any of you know, is testing your knowledge, who was the last person that attempted to attack the Kaaba? Anyone? Alam tara kayf fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil ababil. You know, Abraham when he came, you remember that incident? When he came from Yemen and he wanted to destroy the Kaaba? So from that time until this incident of Amr bin Sa'ad sending an army, the Kaaba was never attacked. And the Kaaba was a sacred place. It was a place that you wouldn't attack. So Marwan says, don't attack the Kaaba. If you attack the Kaaba, the punishment of Allah may be on us. Amr bin Sa'ad says, Wallahi, I will fight even if I have to go inside Al-Haram. Amr bin Zubair then says, I will fight my brother even if it means me going inside the Kaaba to kill him. That is their mentality. The mentality they have is they have no type of type of remorse. They have no type of thinking that, oh, this is the land of Allah. This is the Haram Sharif. This is the land which says don't shed blood in it. This is the land the Prophet never shed blood in. Who are you? Yani why? Because Iman is not in their heart. When you don't have Iman in your heart, you then behave in a way which is like this. Now going back to the point of when he's outside Mecca. When he's outside Mecca, he sends a letter to his brother and says to his brother, come, I want to fight you, but don't tell me to come to fight you inside Mecca. But if you do not come out, I will come and fight you in the Haram. Abdullah bin Zubair is a God-fearing man. Abdullah bin Zubair says, don't worry, we will come to you, wait there. We will fight you there. Abdullah bin Zubair came and the battle began. Alhamdulillah, Abdullah bin Zubair was victorious over them. And Amr bin Zubair, when he realized that his army had failed, his plan has failed, he ran into the house of Ibn Alqamah. Ibn Alqamah was a house next to the Kaaba. And when he ran into the house, he hid. Then his brother Ubaydullah bin Zubair came. And Ubaydullah bin Zubair came to him. And Ubaydullah bin Zubair said to him, I will provide you with protection. I will provide you with protection. He said, come with me, we will go to Abdullah bin Zubair. And then he goes to Abdullah bin Zubair and he says to Abdullah bin Zubair, these are two brothers, look at this, subhanallah. Al-Iman and Kufr. Al-Haq wal-Batil. Where there's Haq, there can never be Batil. Where there's Haq, truthfulness, it doesn't matter what family you are from. Family lineage has no connection to Al-Haq. Haq is Haq. Truthfulness is truthfulness. Uncompromising circumstances. No compromising. Two brothers are on one side, the Haq, who Abdullah bin Zubair and Ja'far bin Zubair are on one side, two brothers. The other two blood brothers are the enemies, are on the other side. Imagine the scene, right? Imagine that scene. Imagine your brother coming to you, your own brother coming to you for protection. Abdullah bin Zubair is a man of justness. He's a man of Sharia. He's a man of taqwa. Abdullah bin Zubair is a man who all night was spent praying namaz. Abdullah bin Zubair used to pray all night. Abdullah bin Zubair used to fast nearly every day of the year. Abdullah bin Zubair, every moment of his life was spent reading the Quran. Abdullah bin Zubair was the man who used to teach Sharia. He was a man who was known to be a man of taqwa. And when the people would look at him, they would say that he reflects the behavior of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, his grandfather. So he fulfilled the rights of his grandfather, as-Siddiq al-Akbar, radiyallaho anhu. And the people would say, when you look at him, he is a Zubair in him. You can see Zubair in him. You can see the Sharia of Zubair in him. You can see the strength of Zubair. Because Zubair bin Awam radiallahu anhu, the Sahabi, was an extremely strong Sahabi. So two brothers now come to Abdullah bin Zubair and Ja'far. Abdullah bin Zubair looks at Ja'far and says, what should I do? Ja'far said, it is your decision. You decide what to do. Abdullah bin Zubair turns around and says to Ubaydullah, when they meet each other, Amr bin Zubair turns to his brother Abdullah bin Zubair. This is the hatred he had for his brother. And why was the hatred? What was the reason behind it? Was because one was God-fearing and one wasn't God-fearing. It wasn't because of inheritance. It was simply because the people would not accept Amr bin Zubair as a leader, even though he is the grandson of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. But I said, we accept your brother because he's a more God-fearing person. So what happens in this incident? Amr bin Zubair turns to who? He turns to Abdullah bin Zubair and he says, O enemy of Allah, what is on your face? What is A'udhu Billah? He says, O enemy of Allah, what is this blood on your face? Abdullah bin Zubair turns around and says, we are not the enemies of Allah, you are the enemies of Allah who disobey Allah. You are the one who is supporting Yazid. You are the one who brought an army here and killed innocent people. Allah's la'na is upon you, not us. We are God-fearing people. We haven't violated anyone. We haven't killed anyone. We haven't robbed anyone. We haven't murdered anyone. We haven't taken anyone's rights away from them. You are the one. And then Ubaydullah wants to calm the situation. He says, brothers, forget this. Brothers, forget this. Trying to indicate towards blood. He says, why don't you do this? He says, I, Ubaydullah, I gave protection to my brother, Amr bin Sa'ad. You are not allowed to touch him. Abdullah bin Zubair says, I swear by Allah that no protection will keep me away from him. He says, arrest him. They arrested him. They said, bring him to me. He then looked at Abdullah bin Zubair, look at the justness of this man. He then said, the last thing that you did when you left Madina and Munawwara, you whipped people for no reason. You punished people for standing with the haqq. He said, all of the people that you punished are here. He said, all of you whip him. All of you flog him. All of you, the way he hit you, you hit him back. And all of them whipped Amr bin Zubair. One narration says he died. The second narration that Imam Ibn Jarir al-Tabari mentions is that he was arrested and he was put in a small prison called the prison of Arim. Arim was a small area. Why? It was called Arim because of one of the first people who was put in that prison was called Arim. And he died eventually. The narration says he was put in there, and in that circumstance he was punished for his crimes. So this brings an end to this episode. Imam Hussain is now is on way to where? Makkah. One narration says. Imam Hussain is already in Makkah. When Imam Hussain is entering into Makkah, before he enters into Makkah, the people are aware that the son of the Prophet is here. The people are aware. And now the people do a grand reception for Imam Hussain. A reception fitting his maqam. And Imam Hussain comes, and the narration says, many narrations, Ibn Asir mentions, the people began to hit the tablet. the tabla, the drums. And they began to sing qasaid. They began to sing narrations and qasida in praise of Imam Hussain. Why? Because he's coming to where? He left the beloved in Medina, and Hussain is coming to take his chair in Makkah. The people realized and thought Imam Hussain is coming to take the leadership. That Hussain is following the footsteps of his grandfather, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the Prophet went to Fatul Makkah, remember when the Prophet went to Makkah? When he entered into Makkah, what did he say? Izhubu antum at-tullaqa. Go, for all of you are free. None of you will be punished. The people now realize the despair. The people are in anger. The people are anxious. The people do not know what is going to happen. But when they see the face of Hussain, when they see the face of Imam Hussain, the Iman is rejuvenated. The Iman is re-evaluated to such an extent that Imam Hussain enters into Makkah al-Mukarramah. And when Imam Hussain radiyallaho anhu enters into Makkah al-Mukarramah, the narration says every single person was happy and singing, and they had tears in their eyes for Imam Hussain. Every single person had tears. For what reason? Because they realized that the sun, at that time, remember brothers, there was not one single person on the earth who was the biological son of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The only one that was Hussain. So when Hussain enters, all the Sahaba who were there, they stand and they welcome Hussain. One narration that Ibn Athir mentions in Tariq al-Dimishqi, he says that when he enters, the people run to Hussain, they throw flowers on him. The people run. No one was given a welcome like this. No one was given a welcome like this. Allama Abdul Ghaffur Hazari ala rahmatullah alayhi, the great sheikh from Pakistan, he says that this gathering of Hussain coming to Mecca was such a gathering that it was like Rasulullah was coming to Mecca. That energy was re-evaluated in the people, was re-energized in the people to tell the people that the son of the Prophet is here. Why? Hussain minni. Hussain is from me and I am from Hussain. The Prophet said clear in the hadith, Al-Mustadrak of Al-Hakim narrated the hadith, Hussain is from me and I am from Hussain. And that is why the Sahaba say and the people say, and I'm concluding on this point because now we have got to Mecca. Tomorrow we will continue on the letters from Kufa and why Hussain went to Iraq. And after the Salah we will have question and answers inshallah. Al-Hussain is a person in his character, there is no one similar to him. The narration says that Imam Ibn Jarir al-Tabari mentions Imam al-Hussain in his behavior was the one who was more similar to the Prophet. The physical aspect from the head until the middle of the body was Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. But in behavior, in the way you talk, in forbearance, in sabr, in ilm, Imam al-Hussain was the one who resembled the Prophet the most. So when Imam Hussain entered into Mecca, when the Sahaba saw him, the reason why the Sahaba had tears in their eyes, they realized and they thought, for a moment Rasulullah is coming. You see the difference? And this concludes or brings us to the end of our presentation today in regards to Imam Hussain now in Mecca. From tomorrow we will discuss the invitation from the people of Kufa. And why did Imam Hussain go to Kufa even though he knew that the Kufan people were treacherous people? They weren't good people. And a proof of that is what they did to his father Ali radiyallaho anhu and what they did to Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. But one of the reasons one of the issues regarding that we will discuss tomorrow in more detail inshallah. That will be tomorrow, and we will inshallah after the prayer we will have about 5 to 10 minutes questions and answers, if that's okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So brothers, we went through mashallah these 10-12 hours of mashallah presentation. Allah reward all for coming to these programs. I know it's extremely lengthy for 10 days commitment. of coming is extremely hard, but alhamdulillah, may Allah reward those who have continuously come for the full 10 days. May Allah give us the blessings of the Imam, inshallah, and give us the best in this one. So really, we went through everything, and today what we did was we recapped briefly on the concept of, in the Sharia, can an illegitimate leader be a leader or not? And we look at the two conflicting hadiths, or what people call conflicting, but they were not conflicting. When you understood it from an academic perspective, one is Ruqsa and one is Azima. These are two concepts that the ulama use, and these two concepts are used for the Sahaba ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in, because the concept is those Sahaba that did give bay'ah are on haq, and those that didn't are also on haq. Because what we said on day one was that the Sahaba ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in, their condition of being a Sahabi is not based upon amal, actions, and it has never been actions. It's based upon the Iman. So that's what we've done tomorrow, because now we've reached Makkah now, alhamdulillah, where Imam Hussain is in Makkah al-Mukarramah. Now when he's in Makkah, that is when the letters arrive from Kufa now. That is when the invitations come from Kufa, that come to Kufa. We want to give you support. So we want to look at tomorrow, what were the letters, who sent them, why did they send them, who were the people in Kufa, what was their background, and then the journey of Imam Hussain. Before Imam Hussain goes, he sends his cousin Muslim bin Aqil radiyallaho anhu to Kufa. After that, Imam Hussain makes the journey himself. And from tomorrow evening, inshallah, by the time we finish, inshallah, with the idhn of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will be in the eve of the 9th of Muharram. Thursday, the 9th of Muharram, 61 after Hijri. So we will be at the eve of the dua that Imam Hussain made at the night time. During that night, Imam Hussain he gave a special address, a private address to his family, his supporters. And then the morning the battle begins, and then the day following that, which is on the Thursday, we have 2 more days left. Thursday will be the aftermath of Imam Hussain's martyrdom. How did the people of Makkah take it? How did the people of Madina take it? What was the view of people like Zayd bin Arqam, these Sahaba, these great? What was their comments? What was their feelings? What was the mood of the Ummah at that time after they knew that the last biological son at that time was Imam Hassan, passed away 10 years prior, was Imam Hussain. And then finally the Friday will be a quick one. Friday will be a full review of the lessons that we learned from Karbala. How do we take the lessons from Karbala? So in fact, inshallah, by Friday we will conclude, inshallah. Inshallah, may Allah reward. So I will open up to questions and answer questions, and inshallah, if any of you have any questions, inshallah. We have no questions at all. MashaAllah. Yes, that's what we discussed tomorrow. What basically happened, no, that's fine. When Yazid sent the letter to Walid bin Utbah, he requested and he demanded the bay'ah from 3 people. One was from Imam Hussain, one from Abdullah bin Zubair, and one from Abdullah bin Umar. Now the issue with Abdullah bin Umar, there are 2-3 narrations. Number one, there is a hadith in Bukhari, Sahih Bukhari, which clearly states that Abdullah bin Umar did give bay'ah. He did give allegiance to Yazid. Some people try to mislead people and say he didn't, but he did do it. You cannot deny that. The other incident regarding that is an incident before Muawiyah radiyallaho anhu passed away. When Abdullah bin Umar was in Madina al-Munawwara, Muawiyah came to Madina as a visit. And during that time, he was galvanizing the people, getting the support of the people to give bay'ah to Yazid. During his life, he appointed him. So when he was in Medina, he then called upon Imam Hussain, and he spoke in front of Imam Hussain, he spoke in front of Abdullah bin Umar and these people. He then privately spoke to Abdullah bin Umar. And the narration, this is mentioned clear-cut. It's not an exaggeration, it's clear-cut mentioned in Fathul Bari. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani explains this, and I can show you the exact quote if you want it. There's not a problem with that. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says that when Muawiyah speaks to Abdullah bin Umar, he gives him an option. He says, you give your allegiance to my son, and here is 100,000 dirham as a gift if you give the allegiance. If you do not give the allegiance, then we will you will be killed. That is the narration. The narration is clearly good. Abdullah bin Umar then did give bay'ah in the first place. He gave 2 bay'ahs, he gave them. Then when Abdullah bin Umar radiyallaho anhu did, he broke his bay'ah. And he said, may Allah forgive me. This is exactly what he says. He says, may Allah give me, for I took my religion cheap. Do you get my point? He broke the bay'ah, he denounced Yazid, and that was around the time after Imam Hussain was shaheed. One of the reasons that Imam Badruddin al-Aini rahmatul alayhi, the famous Imam from Umdat al-Qari, he says in Umdat al-Qari, one of the reasons why Abdullah bin Umar did give the bay'ah, the allegiance, was simply because his life was at stake. And Ruqsa says that if your life is at stake, it is permissible for you to do something like that. But did he hold in his heart Yazid was good? No, he did not. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why Imam al-Hussain did not stay in Makkah. One point I will mention, a lot of people, unfortunately, when they speak about this, and Ibn Khaldun says this, unfortunately, is that Ibn Khaldun says that Imam Hussain made a mistake of leaving Makkah to go to Kufa. One of the things that we learn, and which is quite clear, is Imam Hussain is an extremely intelligent person, because knowledge comes from his family. His father was Bab al-Ilm, ana Madina al-Ilm wa aliyun babuha, aw kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. His father was man kunta mawla fahadan alim wa rajul. The merits of knowledge is unbelievable. So to assume that Imam Hussain would fall for a trap from the Kufan people and would just go to Kufa for that reason doesn't make any sense. On one hand, you know that the Kufan people are treacherous people, and we knew that because Sayyidina Ali, when he was fighting at the Battle of Siffin, which I mentioned on the background of Karbala, what did he say? He says, how can I fight my enemy when I can't even trust my own people? He says, when I look forward to fight them, I don't know what's behind me. He couldn't trust his own people. And Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba was in the same predicament. He knew that he couldn't trust their people. So the point is, why did Imam Hussain then go to Kufa? Why did he leave Mecca, where he could have galvanized a good army and he could have fought Yazid if he wanted to? Number one is he never had an army, Imam Hussain. That's the first important point. He never went to fight. He never went for any political agenda. He went for the tajdeed of Islam. He went to renew Islam, to revive Islam. He never went for a political aim, unfortunately, the people said. Secondly, the reason why Imam Hussain was adamant of traveling to Kufa and going there was because he knew he was going to become shaheed. That's the difference. It wasn't that Imam Hussain didn't know that he never knew that they were treacherous. He knew they were treacherous. Imam Hussain knew that the Kufan people could not be trusted. And that was generally about the Iraqi people of that time. Why was that? Why was it that the Kufan people behaved in such a manner, in the way they behaved in? It is mentioned again by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. He says one of the reasons for that is because he says that these were people that came to Islam through the doors of Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, when the Persian Empire was destroyed. And for that behavior of before Islam to leave them, it takes a time, it takes a while. You know, to change someone's behavior, to change someone's character takes time. That is why that behavior and those traits of those behavior was still within, or was still in the Iraqi people. So Imam Hussain not leaving Makkah, going towards Kufa, wasn't because the Kufans he loved. It's contrary to that. It wasn't because he never knew he knew they were treacherous. The reason he went to Kufa was because he knew he was going to be shaheed. He knew from the hadith, the Prophet said to him clear. The Prophet said to him, oh my son, you will join me soon. Ali radiyallahu anhu warda, Ali was with him one day. This narration says that Ali was with him one day and they were traveling and they came to Karbala. And Sayyidina Ali said, what is this land? And they said, this is the land of Nineveh, Karbala. Sayyidina Ali said, فَأَصْبِرْ يَا Ibn Abdullah. He says, oh, be patient, Ibn Abdullah. When you are faced with the enemy, show sabr. Sayyidina Ali knew that that would be the land. And then his son asked him, oh my father, what is this land? He said, this is that land in which I went to the Prophet ﷺ and the Prophet was crying. I said, Ya Rasulullah, may my father be sacrificed upon you. Why are you crying? He says, I just come from the place where Hussein will be sacrificed. And there's another hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ, Ibn Abbas narrates the hadith, that says what? That he saw in a dream that the Prophet ﷺ giving him Bashira, giving him a sign that Hussein would be martyred at that place. So Imam Hussain going to Kufa or going towards Iraq or going towards Karbala, eventually he ended up in Karbala, was for one reason, to become a shaheed. And why? Because the Prophet said to Imam Hussain another hadith. It's beautiful. If you look at all, because if you look at all the hadith which Ibn al-Jawzi compiles, it's amazing. What is the Prophet said? The Prophet said to Hussain, Imam Hussain complains to the Prophet. He has a dream. The Prophet, Imam Hussain has a dream, and he says to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, look at the way your ummah is treating me. Look what they're doing to me. And one narration says this was on the eve of Karbala. This was the eve. Imam Hussain turned around to the Prophet and said, look at the way they treat me. The Prophet said, Hussain, for you to reach your maqam, for you to reach your position with Allah, you have to go through sacrifice. For you to reach that position with Allah, you have to go through martyrdom. That without being martyred, you will not get that maqam. Allah will not give that position to you. So Imam Hussain knew that he was going to be martyred. He knew that these things were going to happen. And tomorrow we will discuss in detail of what happens, why they call Imam Hussain, who were the Kufan people. One of the things that you learn is, one of the things about Karbala which really strikes me as a person is loyalty. It really brings down that concept of loyalty. Are you with Ahlul Bayt? Are you not with Ahlul Bayt? Are you with the Sahaba? What? Because at that time, from the period of Imam al-Hussein's honorable death until Umar bin Abdul Aziz becomes the leader, like I told you yesterday, Ali is being cursed on the minbar every day. Okay? There's hadith marfu. What do we mean by this hadith? It is a hadith which is narrated without mentioning the name of the narrator of the hadith. So it's a tabi'i. A tabi'i is a student of the Sahaba. He narrates the hadith without telling you who he heard the hadith from. But he will say directly, I heard it from Rasulullah. Why did Hassan al-Basri do that? Imam Hassan al-Basri radiyallaho anhu is Imam Sayyidina Ali's most senior student. And all of the tariqas in the world, Qadiri, Shadiri, Darqawi, whatever they may be, Sawadi, Chisri, all of them go back to whom? Hassan al-Basri. And Hassan al-Basri is the murid and student of Mawla Ali radiallahu anhu warda. Imam Hassan al-Basri narrates many hadith, but he never mentions the name of Sayyidina Ali. He never mentions the name of Sayyidina Ali. Why? Because the climate of that time was anti-Ahlul Bayt. The Bani Umayyah had made this atmosphere that if you mention the fadail of the Ahlul Bayt, they would punish you. If you mention the fadail of the Ahlul Bayt, you were humiliated. An example of that, and I'll finish off with this and we'll conclude with dua. Imam al-Nisa'i, he is one of the 6 Imams of Hadith. What is his maqam? Some muhaddithin say Imam Nisa'i was greater than Abu Dawood in Hadith. That's what they say, Imam Nisa'i. Some of the scholars have said he reached the level of both Bukhari and Muslim. So Nisa'i is not a small scholar. He's from the Kutub al-Sitta. Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawood, Ibn Majah and Nisa'i. These are the 6 books of Hadith. Imam Nisa'i is a giant Imam, giant scholar. Imam Nisa'i comes to Damascus now. So let's look at the atmosphere. Now you will realize why did the people go to Karbala and murder Imam Hussain? Why was it that the people, when they studied in Karbala, when they looked at Imam, what did Imam Hussain say to him? He says, do you know who I am? Okay, don't listen to me. Go to Anas ibn Malik and ask Anas ibn Malik who I am. Go to Zayd bin Arqam, ask him who I am. Go to the Sahaba, Abdullah bin Hanzala. Go to these Sahaba, go to Ibn Abbas, go to Ibn Umar, ask them, who is Hussein? They will tell you who I am. But why was it that their heart did not change? Why was it that they still violated Imam Hussain? What was the reason? It was because of that climate that was created, that anti-Ahlul Bayt climate. The reading of the Fadail of the Ahlul Bayt was haram. To praise the Ahlul Bayt was haram. If you said anything about Ahlul Bayt, you would be whipped and you would be put in jail. It's a fact. No one can deny this. For close to 60 years, Imam Ali has been cursed on the mimbar every Jum'ah. And Umar bin Abdul Aziz stopped this at his time. So all of this fitna that happened, Imam Nisa'i comes now. And when he comes to Damascus, he sits in Damascus and he listens to the people and they begin to abuse Sayyidina Ali. They began to abuse Sayyidina Ali. When Imam Nisa'i saw this, he cried. One narration said, and you can open any book of Ilm al-Rijal, any book of the biography of the narrators of Hadith, and go to An-Nisa'i's biography, and this is exactly what happened. What does he do? An-Nisa'i looks at the circumstance and he prepares a whole book on the Fadail of the Ahlul Bayt. Before him, no one ever wrote a book on the Fadail of the Ahlul Bayt. Imam Bukhari had a chapter on the Ahlul Bayt, on Fadail Hassan wal Hussain, Bab Fadail Manqabati Fatima, At-Tirmidhi had other Imams, whatever. The only scholar, the first scholar to write a full book on the Fadail of the Ahlul Bayt was Imam Nisa'i. After he wrote his book, Imam Nisa'i sat and he began to teach the book to the people. The Hadith, the Fadail, and the people were shocked. They were thinking, we've never heard these Hadith in our life. We never heard Man kunta mawla fahadul Ali mawla. We never heard Ana Madinatul ilm wa Ali al-Babu. We never heard Man ahabbani wa habba hadani wa Aishar illa Hassan wa Hussein wa abahuma wa ummahuma kana ma'i fi darajati yawm al-qiyamah. The Sahaba were like, the people were like, we've never heard these Hadith about Ahlul Bayt. Why? Because of the climate. Some people within the group said, oh, don't talk about Ahlul Bayt too much. It's called a sharati. You know, you have it in every community. They said, speak about Amir Muawiyah radiyallaho anhu. Speak about Banu Umayyah. Sadate Banu Umayyah, they said. That's the exact term they said. Speak about the Sadat of Banu Umayyah, a'udhu billah. And Imam Nisa'i exactly said, he says, there's no fadail of such people. That's what Imam Nisa'i said. He said, there is no fadail of such people. And what did they do? They began beating Imam Nisa'i straight away. He was over 90 years old. And they beaten him so much that Imam Nisa'i became unconscious. He woke up, he realized that he was going to die. He could feel death. He turns to his servants and his people. He says, take me to Makkah. This is the final, this is the beauty now. He says, take me towards Makkah. He died on the love of Ali. Imam Nisa'i's shahadat came on the love of the Ahlul Bayt. He sacrificed his life. And when they went to Makkah, they said, when they were outside Makkah, they said, Imam, where should we bury you? He says, take me to the houses of Abdul Muttalib. Opposite the houses of Abdul Muttalib, bury me there. Bury me so I may be buried in the place that I can look at the houses of Abdul Muttalib. I can look at the houses of the Ahlul Bayt. And that is when he was buried there. And the moment he entered into Makkah, he passed away. And that is why our shayukh said what? Our ulama said that Imam Nisa'i's death was on the love of the Ahlul Bayt. That was the reality, the fitna. And that changed maybe 300 to 400 years afterwards. May Allah give us tawfiq and bless us all.